Good afternoon to our participants in the MAP Second Next Gen CEO Conference entitled The Good Next Gen CEO Stewards of the Future. I'm Beng Pangan, your moderator for the second session of track number 4, The Good Tech. Again, some quick reminders to all of our participants. Your mics are muted and your cameras are turned off during the session. Now, for those of you who are in the Echo Hub platform, you can type your questions for our speaker in the chat room and we will do our best to accommodate this. Okay? Technology has done so much to enrich our lives and our businesses. However, these machines and gadgets that do all of these wonderful things need one thing: power. Without this, all these are nothing more than shiny objects that do nothing. With us today is the man who makes sure that we do have that power, literally, to create the changes we all want to see. Now, aside from being an accomplished executive, our speaker this afternoon is also a biker, both in the physical and motorized version. Plus, he is an amazing vocalist and the lead guitarist of our village band. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of Aboitiz Power, Mr. Manny Rubio.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm sorry, Beng, I wasn't able to pick up a word you said. I'm not sure if it's my system or your system. But anyway, good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure sharing this space with fellow chief executives, government heads, management educators, and other leaders from the country's top institutions. I would like to thank the Management Association of the Philippines for this opportunity to share how we at Aboitiz Power drive the country's progress while striving for a sustainable future for all through technology and digitalization. As CEO of one of the larger companies in the Philippines, my primary role is to advance and improve shareholder value. But more than that, it is bringing in stakeholders and advancing stakeholder value as well. Always looking for ways to align both. I believe that it is a CEO's responsibility to bring balance to this purpose, ensuring that communities benefit from the contributions of the corporate entity and driving social progress for a better future. The Philippines currently faces twin challenges of driving high economic growth and developing a more environmentally sustainable economy. High economic growth requires building and delivering reliable and affordable infrastructure to energize businesses, communities, and homes. And this infrastructure historically has been thermal in nature. Meanwhile, the growing pressure to fight climate change requires power players to shift and transition to cleaner technologies to decarbonize the energy system. Where should the next gen CEOs in the power industry stand? Please allow me to share my views. I am privileged to drive Aboitiz Power's 10-year growth strategy, which involves tripling our existing renewable energy portfolio to 4,600 megawatts, a challenging but doable target that not only supports the Philippine government's efforts to build a more sustainable energy system, but also addresses one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of providing everyone access to affordable and clean energy. Through the thousands of jobs that we will generate with our projects in the next decade, we will also be able to help address UN's goal of eradicating poverty. Our mandate is to provide reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy. And by delivering on that promise, we will not only be securing the company's growth, but also the progress of the economy. which will ultimately improve the lives of Filipinos today and the generations to come. Our businesses have thrived for over 100 years, owing to strategic directions across the Aboitiz Power Group aimed at making it a truly sustainable organization. In line with the theme of this session, let me share one of our key enablers for growth. We believe we can take our sustainability to greater heights by leveraging our digital strategy, aptly called Digital Leap. Digital Leap is anchored on addressing and protecting our assets, people, and customers with a focus on digital operations, IT and operations technology, cybersecurity, AI, and advanced analytics and smart infrastructure. Data science and artificial intelligence will be key components in this strategy, which implements several initiatives as part of our digital transformation, including predictive analytics, remote plant operations, coverage of information and operational technologies, next generation energy trading capabilities, and advanced metering infrastructure, among others. Down the road, these technologies can even help us achieve our sustainability goals. A good example is how we use AI applications to automate processes that allow us to minimize emissions and renewable energy generation forecasts for hydro, solar, and wind power, as well as optimizing our trading strategies across our portfolio of assets, highlighting how technology can indeed be used for good. I believe our solid strategy of digital first, but digital where it matters, is key to driving the innovation and digital culture of our company. The pandemic has set our transformation into hyperdrive, and we are happy to say that our team members are adapting really well. Living in a digital world, agility and adaptability are crucial to making digitalization work for the company. Plant efficiency is one of the major thrusts of our business unit to support sustainable operations. In line with this, we are improving the efficiency and reducing the environmental impact of our coal assets through our digital initiatives. Our 300 megawatt Thermo South power plant in Davao utilizes data science and artificial intelligence to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Its automated control loop system enables us to curb sulfur oxide emissions, targeting environmental sustainability and waste resource minimization. As we pursue creating a truly sustainable Philippines, we need ample, reliable, and cost-effective power to get there, something which our thermal assets can provide as we pivot towards a decarbonized future. In the midst of the energy transition, we continue to improve on the performance of our coal business to ensure that we also power progress responsibly. We have been proactive in addressing the possible effects of our operations on our environment, community, and our own business. As much as we have done, we live by the culture of innovation to strive for more. While Aboitiz Power is one with the Philippines and the world towards decarbonization, we believe that a developing country like ours is still at the beginning of its journey. It will take time. At the moment, coal remains to be the most reliable and most economically viable energy source. The reality is that we will have to continue relying on coal until a new baseload technology proves to be environmentally sustainable, yet as reliable and as cost effective. The Philippines will need all forms of energy to sustain the way of life of Filipinos and fuel the economic progress of the country. And we are ready to support the Philippine economic growth with our diversified fleet of assets. Our existing renewable and thermal capacities will help power the country during this change while we build more renewable energy and develop new complementary solutions to help the country decarbonize more deeply. These solutions will likely include energy storage, carbon capture, clean base load generation, decentralized energy, clean hydrogen. There also has to be a balance between the responsibilities of the government, private sector, and even consumers to make our energy system work. We are on the right track in achieving our country's energy aspirations, but we have to constantly work together. We have a robust and dynamic energy roadmap as well as mechanisms that encourage transparency and competitiveness, with the ultimate goal of further driving down power rates. Moreover, there should be enforcement and compliance across the whole energy sector, from generation, transmission, to distribution. In the meantime, we will remain focused on finding the right balance to power a better world. We at Aboitiz Power want to be more than just a preferred energy company. We want to be a catalyst for change while being an effective partner for progress. Electricity powers our lives every day, and our vision for Aboitiz Power is there every step of the way. Today, we are powering progress for our communities, our customers, and our country. As a next gen CEO, it is my responsibility to drive Aboitiz Power as we aspire to bring sustainable growth far into decades to come. The goal is to build infrastructure to meet the needs of today without jeopardizing the future generation. It's not just about protecting the world we are in today, but ultimately making it better toward a progressive and thriving future. Thank you, maraming salamat, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manny. Can you hear me? Still
Beng,
can?
I cannot hear
Hello?
you. I
Can you
cannot
hear
understand.
me?
It's quite garbled.
Until now? Can you hear me now?
Hang on, I'll check my, maybe it's my system.
All right. So while
Okay.
we're waiting for Mr. Rubio to check his audio, for those of you who have questions, especially those on the Echo Hub platform, just type them in our chat box, and then we will try our best to accommodate these questions. Very interesting topic, power. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Can you hear me now? All right. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Still no? Can you hear me?
I'm now using my
Hang
computer
on.
to see if I can hear you. I cannot hear you.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now? Still can? Okay. We're having some technical difficulties here.
Beng, I
About
cannot
now.
hear anything.
Hello? Can you hear me? Still no. Still can. Okay. All right. Anyway, if you have questions, guys, please, kind of, right? What's your questions? But then again, power is really something very essential
I'm
to
getting the same sound on my computer and on my earbuds. It's the same.
still. Okay.
It's kind of slow. It's drooling. I cannot understand it. I
Until
don't know
now,
why.
how about now? Still the same? Can you hear me now? Better? Still no. Okay. Anyway, we'll try to type your questions. Here we go. We'll try to communicate using our chat session. I'm sure one of the questions in everybody's mind is that how well is the energy sector doing in terms of supplying us with the power we want? Doing okay. Well, let's do this. Doing in giving us the power we need.
right? Okay, we're not talking about cell phone signal here, guys, right? Okay, there we go. So, yeah, it's been a perennial problem for those of you. I'm sure your parents, though, because we have next gen's CEOs here. But for those of you who were already around in the 90s, you know very well the problems we had when it comes to power. The rotating brownouts, remember those? We still have those occasionally, but not as bad as it was before. If you were in the ice cream business, oh boy, you are in trouble.
Bang, I can
Right?
hear you now. Sorry, yeah, I can hear you
There
now.
you go, sir. Okay, very good.
Sorry, sorry about that.
Anyway, sir, first question. As of now, how well is the power sector doing in terms of giving us the power that we need?
I think there's enough capacity in the grid at the moment, as long as baseload plants are actually running. We've experienced outages uh, early middle of middle of this year, no, and we've seen prices spiking, or we see prices in the spot markets spiking every time we have outages of these plants, no. But moving forward, I think there's going to be some, or we are going to see some concern with the rating of Malampaya, no, and as we see that they went on outage, and the DOE actually declared that there's going to be some duration in terms of capacity, as gas is actually dwindling, the gas supply is dwindling.
Yeah.
However, there are also new capacities coming in. We're commissioning 1,336 megawatts of new capacity, of
Yeah.
which 668 of that is actually running today, and we
Okay.
expect that half to be synchronized by around March or April next year.
Great. Okay. Now we have a question here, Manny, from the audience. Since we want to attract more investors into our country, do we see? You mentioned capacity is going to come in. You have all of these projects that will give us better power. Do you see power costs going down in the foreseeable future?
That has always been the desire, and the target to bring it down. However, as you well know, I guess the audience well know, gas prices have gone up, coal prices have gone up, right?
Yeah.
Today, nuke index is, I think, last time I checked, around 158, $159 per ton.
Yeah.
Gas has doubled as well, no, and fuel costs to generate power, of course, obviously, will also increase, no. The intention really, and it's not just in generation that we need to look into reducing the cost of energy. There's a lot of component in the bill that we actually receive every month, no.
Mhm.
There are transmission charges, distribution charges. So that's why I was saying that everyone needs to work together to achieve a cost effective power cost for the country. There's as we shift towards cleaner energy sources, no, renewable. There are claims that of course, the saying solar is free, wind is free, but we must understand that these are variable renewable energy sources.
Mhm.
When we have wind, they're producing. If we don't have wind, we're not producing. But wind is not constant, sun is not
Mhm.
constant, so it
Mhm.
varies, no. And the grid cannot take or will have difficulty if they cannot manage the variability of these resources. That's why there has
Mm.
to be a complementing technology. And today, as it stands, it's either oil or gas that's actually balancing the variability of these variable renewable energy sources. So that again costs money, and I think that's something that is not being mentioned, or that's something that's being not being noticed or discussed. How to actually make variable renewable energy um, um, consistent, no, and allow it to actually sustain the operations of the grid, because the grid operator will have a nightmare operating in a grid that's with high variable renewable energy penetration. That's why they
Right.
would require balancing energy as well.
Okay. Now, earlier, Manny, during your talk, you mentioned something very interesting. You said that coal is still the most cost efficient energy source at this time. And yet, yeah, you mentioned it. Wind, they say wind is free, solar is free, although, it's kind of variable. Can you elaborate a little bit? How can coal still be more efficient? And do we have enough supply? Right?
Yeah, we see supply in 2022, probably even up to 2023, being able to cope with demand. Beyond that, we're seeing some tightness, no, until of course the new capacities that won the supply, that's going to supply Meralco, no, that they actually offered for bidding last year, 1,800 megawatts. Once those new plants come in, then and part of the supply coming that's going to supply that 1,800 is also
Mm-hmm.
coal, no? 600 megawatts of
Okay.
that. So yes, that gives you an idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, first is that well, as far as Aboitiz is concerned, in the next 10 years, we have no intention of actually growing our core portfolio other than the ones that we are commissioning at the moment. The next pivot that we're going to do to supply baseload requirements, and we expect that the new baseload capacities will be needed to supply a demand coming in 2030. So today we see that gas is probably the best option in terms of cost, and in terms of being able to build, no, because of I guess financial institutions will still be able to, or would be willing to finance gas, although we're seeing some institutions also already shying away from gas as a source for power, given that it also contributes to carbon emissions.
Right.
Um, the thing with renewable energy is that, okay, maybe capex is not as expensive as a coal or a gas facility, but you need land.
Mm.
Okay, and and and,
Yes.
and land, we most of the land in the Philippines is arable, right?
Mm-hmm.
If ever we're going to convert land, we for sure, most probably, we will be taking it away from food production. And so far,
Yeah.
no one actually raised that argument, right? That land that we convert for solar are lands that we are taking away from food production, whether it's rice, corn, it's
Mm-hmm.
agriculture. So,
Mm-hmm.
in converting 2,000 hectares of land, what will the farmers do?
Mm-hmm.
um,
True.
Clearing those lands at the moment, no? And 2,000 megawatts or 2,000 hectares will probably only give you 1,800 megawatts of solar capacity. That's variable,
Wow.
only
Okay.
produced during the day. What happens
Uh-huh.
during the evening? Where will you get your power?
That's true. That's true. That makes so much sense. Okay. Now, Manny, I was able to visit your beautiful plant in Magat,
Okay.
in Isabela, no? Fantastic facility. Um, how significant is the contribution of hydroelectric power to the grid, to our needs? How
The big
significant is
Yeah, good question, Beng, and thank you for asking that. I think the best, I believe the best value of our hydros is that it's providing the much needed regulating reserve, or
that?
in technical terms, the balancing energy that is required when you have actually this variable renewable energy coming in, because once you open the gates and water flows, it can immediately react to address the frequency changes in the grid, no? The
Mm,
reason why your lights are not flicking is because our hydros are hard at work balancing that energy, um,
okay. Uh-huh.
now passing through a solar facility, right? It's
Uh-huh.
the issue is that you cannot buy fuel for hydro, right? So
Okay.
you have to depend on the hydrology. You have to depend on water inflows, right? So
Mhm.
that's why it's critical also that we need to manage fuel, no, meaning the water behind the dams, and that's where our one of our digital projects and AI and data science actually play a huge role because of the historical data that we have, because of all the factors and the variables that we've put in, we're able to forecast quite accurately inflows. No, so we know when we want to generate and when we can generate, and and offer that capacity into the grid so that we're only generating when it's really needed because fuel is actually limited and constrained.
Okay, so that's our, it's pretty much our balance here. We're talking about balance. So hydroelectricity provides that balance that prevents us from flickering lights and everything.
One of them.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of water, sir, there's a question here from our audience. Can we utilize our bodies of water instead of using land in building solar energy?
Again, very good question. And yes, in fact, Aboitiz Power owns and operates the hydropower plants in the three largest dams in the Philippines, so Magat, Ambuklao, Binga, and we are actually still in the development phase of developing an impounding hydro upstream of Magat. We call it Alimit, no,
Okay.
so that we can still trap some water that will go into Magat, which usually would get spilled during the rainy season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also the limitation of hydro. And also on the run-of rivers, we have the most number of run-of river hydro plants. The one without impounding, the one that just constantly flows, no? And we're harnessing the energy, the kinetic energy coming from the water flow to generate electricity. The problem with that is that again it's seasonal. Most of our plant
Mm.
actually has maximum output during the rainy season when demand is actually lower, right? And when demand
Oh.
is needed during summer, most of our hydros, because of the hydrology in the Philippines, most
Mhm.
of the hydro plants, not just Aboitiz plants, most of the hydro plants in the Philippines are actually not producing because the reservoir is empty, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
again, we would love to, right?
Uh-huh.
The limitation is there.
Okay. Are there still places that we can still tap to build hydroelectric
Quite
facilities?
quite a number, and
Okay.
but it's again the issue here really is the pace where you can develop these facilities. No, they're not like solar when have land build solar, right?
Mhm.
It's more like wind that you really have to have a resource that's working, testing the resource. In hydro, we have to test the water to make sure that the inflows is there and it has
Mhm.
the right inflow for us to size the hydros correctly. But the cost of building hydros is actually much higher than building a solar or a wind farm. No,
Mhm.
and because of the nature of hydros, most of the time it's within ancestral domains where there are actually registered indigenous peoples organization where we have to have discussions, agreements, right, and permits from the indigenous peoples, no? And this adds to the timelines and into the bureaucracy of actually in the permitting process in order to actually build a hydro facility. So
Okay.
it's not that
All right.
easy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Let me put you into a hypothetical situation, Mania. Okay. Let's say it's May 2022. We have a new president. Okay. And that president appoints you as the secretary of the Department of Energy. What would be your top three priorities for
Good,
securing power in our country?
very good, very good question. Well, although I don't have any intention or aspiration to be the
Oh,
uh,
who knows, di ba? Who
we have
knows?
been lobbying, and we've been pushing for a number of regulations to be actually enacted. One is that well, we want the co-optimized market to actually start, right? And this we have a spot market for energy, right?
Okay.
Now everyone. all the generators in Luzon and Visayas offer the capacity to generate energy and sell into the wholesale electricity spot market. There's another component of that called co-optimized market, where you also sell a product called ancillary service. You're balancing energy. Today
Okay.
it's being contracted with NGCP. I think it's going to be much more efficient if market will drive the balance between energy and ancillary, so that
Mhm.
it's always working in tandem.
Mhm.
There's no wasted capacity. It's always optimized. That's why it's called the co-optimized market. That one, I believe, will in the midterm will really reduce power cost, because then the energy that will be offered will be only the energy that's needed, and the ancillary services that will be offered and bought by the grid operator will only be the ancillary services that will be needed by the grid. Okay.
Okay.
Second, that
Wow. Good.
well,
Your first 100 days, huh?
yeah, and that one is coming. That one's coming, Beng. No? Second is
Mhm.
the green energy auction pricing, which actually now the DOE has already developed. No, we want to have a venue to sell our renewable energy, so that distribution utilities, retail electricity suppliers, those that need to comply with a requirement, no, to supply 1% of their energy as renewable energy, can have the means to buy green energy from this market. So everyone offers there, and then you can just buy from there if you don't want to buy it on your own or have a bilateral contract with another
Mhm.
supplier. That's happening, and we're glad that DOE is actually initiated that. And third, I think what we'd like to see is for well we always talk in the energy industry, we always focus on generation,
Mhm.
but there's also the transmission aspect, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
We can generate, but if there's no
Yeah.
transmission, right, we cannot evacuate the capacity. So we
Mhm.
want I think we want DOE also to make sure that transmission gets enough focus and gets enough attention, to for transmission to catch up with capacity, right? Because there are a
Okay.
number of constrained lines at the moment. There are generators that cannot actually evacuate because line is limited. There are investors that would like to put up plants where they are needed, but the lines are actually delayed. There are plans, no? I'm sure NGCP have included this in their transmission development plans, but because of the way ERC is processing the approvals and the way the rates are being crafted, as far as the transmission charge is concerned, it's also difficult for NCP to invest immediately. No, it's always playing catch up. So I think
Mhm.
they have to look into how um, rates need to be developed, no, for NGCP to be more proactive, or to allow NGCP to be more proactive. So we may have generation, but we need also the transmission capacity, right? So
Mm. Nako, if there are anybody in the audience who has access to our presidential candidates, okay, here you have it. Manny is already giving us the solutions to our energy problems. Okay, keep him in mind as the new energy secretary. Okay, Manny, we have another question from the audience. All right. You know that in the US, in Europe, and hopefully soon in the Philippines, there's this push for electric cars. Okay, electric
okay.
vehicles, and anything electric. All right, electric homes, smart homes, etc. Now, can we support the demand? Let's say we put up more of this recharging stations all over the country. Do we have enough power to do this?
I think we do, no, and if there's a price signal as we're seeing in the spot market, I'm sure generators will continue to invest capacities into the Philippines. And if you ask me for four items, no, I would
Go
probably
ahead.
put the fourth one as for ERC to look into um, coming up with a better way than just putting a price cap into Western pricing, just in case Western prices spike. The reason Western prices are spiking is because it's sending a signal that, hey, we need more generation capacity. Now, if you're going to put a price cap because it's spiking, then it's artificially capping, right? And the true cost of power. Right. So who will be investing in an environment where, when if you need a peaking plant, for example, which probably would be a gas plant or an oil
Mm-hmm.
facility, the current way of putting a price cap, it won't be able to justify putting up a picking plant, and that's where we're actually having issues. Okay, so
Okay.
going back to your question of do we have enough power? For sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will be investing. We're looking forward to actually EVs as a future source of demand. No, in fact,
Mm-hmm.
we're thinking, would EVs really move the needle in the Philippines? No, given our
Mm-hmm.
culture, we're putting loud mufflers. We want to hear the sound of internal
Yeah.
combustion. Probably not cars, but cheap, affordable electric motorbikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's I think that's the
This is the
that's the
biker in you talking.
huh?
This is the biker in you talking.
No, no, no. But I think the electric bikes, I think, are given our economic situation, given
Mm-hmm.
our mentality, given our mindset. No, I think well, EV for sure will catch up, right? But I think the immediate thing that will move this, we'll see more electric bikes on the road. No, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the something that we're seeing that will actually drive electricity demand.
Okay. So, sana ano, we start with an electric Miata, no? I wish. Alright. Okay. Another question, Manny. No. Okay. We've been hearing a lot of I don't know if you call it chismis or gossip about our steam energy sources, particularly Malampayan, no? Malampayan, right? I mean,
gas,
they're saying
gas,
it's di ba? Oh, gas.
gas.
Sorry, gas. Uh, they're saying it's already depleted. I mean, would you enlighten us? I mean, in terms of our gas resources, I mean, are
Yeah,
are these nearing depletion? Are we middle or where are
yeah.
we?
Beng, I can only opine based on the official declaration, no, the one that DOE shared with us, that there will be the rating, right? And from what I remember, what was shared with us was 30% duration moving forward, no, from the planned outage last October.
Okay.
Are they actually 30% derated now? Based on Western output of the gas plants, hovering around there, or probably even a little bit lower. No, but I guess it is inevitable. I think it is going to run out. I think that's not a secret. They have disclosed it. No, but the question is when. Right,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we're seeing the start of the depletion, no, and we need to well, whoever owns the concession and owns the service contracts to explore. I think they're looking at the opportunity of looking for other sources.
Okay. Right. Okay. Speaking of other sources, okay, here we go again. This has been this question has been asked over and over and over again. Is there a possibility of reopening the Bataan nuclear power plant or putting up a nuclear power plant in the Philippines? Do the risks outweigh the benefits? What do you think?
You know, based on what I've read, right, and
Mhm.
I'm not very much familiar with construction of nuclear. I'm not a civil engineer. I think
Mhm.
it would, if anyone would actually consider developing and putting up a nuclear power plant, I think they're better off starting on a greenfield project, not a brownfield one. That's what I believe, right? So
Mhm.
if they will be privatizing that, and people would consider um, doing a brownfield nuclear, then let them go ahead. But I think it would be, my view is that it's going to be better as greenfield, because there are more modern technologies that are available, much more compact. right? And I guess cheaper. Again, depending on how
Okay.
much you buy the facilities for from PISAM, right?
Well, where are we in terms of development of nuclear energy? Is it already on the decline? Has it matured? I mean, worldwide, uh, where are we?
Well, for most, I think the focus really, the shift is going towards renewable energy, right?
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of talk about wind, a lot of we see a lot of development on offshore wind, particularly solar,
Mhm.
and what from my readings, the promise actually is green hydrogen, right?
Mhm.
I used to work for a gas company. At the moment, I'm a bit skeptical, knowing how much it takes to produce a molecule of hydrogen from
Mhm.
electrolysis. But if you have excess capacity, maybe from renewable energy, from solar or wind, then it makes it viable. I I've, I've I haven't come across discussions, although there are actually advocates of nuclear, especially the new technology. In the new technology, nuclear, again, much more subcompact. The way you deal with the waste materials actually not unlike the technology in the past. No, I think it's much more manageable. We have not been looking at it because we believe that if there's going to be a consideration of a nuclear power facility in the Philippines, I think government would need to come up with hard regulations to make sure that what is put up is actually safe, within standards, and compliant, no, to whatever standards that the government will actually come up with. So I
Okay.
think
Last
that's
question. Mhm.
government driven.
Okay. Talagang you really have to be appointed as the new energy secretary. Okay. Last question, Manny. Can you give us three tips for our next generation managers and executives who may want to go into the power sector?
Good question. I think first and foremost, any future leader of a power company should think about sustainability, right? Climate change is real, right? And I guess our generation didn't have a choice, but
Yeah.
at the moment, I think we still don't have a choice but to continue running our coal facility. We don't want what happened or what's happening in Europe to happen in the Philippines. They went on a fast transition, not knowing about the consequences, and then all of a sudden they're short of power. That they're opening up mothballed coal plants, no, and I guess that's also why we're seeing the coal prices going up. So sustainability has to be the priority. Build the needs of today, but make sure that you're not jeopardizing the future generation. Right. Second, I think a next generation CEO should really, be inclusive and be conscious about diversity. I think that's thinking about the new generation, the millennials, Gen Zs, even Gen X. I think we need to have a more inclusive mindset, and we call it in Aboitiz. Our CEO Sabine Aboitiz is very much espousing the remix culture, no, that
Mhm.
everyone has to be considered, no, multi generational way of managing things, and also multicultural, no. I think that's what remix is all about. Third, I think, is that again, balancing the need of or satisfying the need of the shareholders, but also remembering that you're responsible and accountable for your stakeholders, for the community,
Mhm.
right? So to me, of course, you're responsible for corporate success, right? So that you can also help in social development, no. Because you have to run a profitable company to contribute to social development, but
True.
when there's social development that can ensure that you'll have corporate success, it's symbiotic, right? So you have
True.
to, to me, I think you have to think that way.
Right. Okay. Well, Manny, thank you so much for giving us your time, your experiences, your thoughts. We wish you well, and I'm sure that our participants have learned so much from you.
Maraming
Thank
salamat.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
All right. Thank you. And for this ends our session for our participants. You can either continue with the fourth talk in the good tech, or you can now go to the lobby and you can choose some of the other tracks. So at this point, again, this is Beng Pangan on behalf of the MAP Next Generation Committee. We'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon, and stay safe, guys. Thank you.